What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to continue the topic of NBA draft prospects, and we're going to be talking about a center today, ladies and gentlemen, that I feel like a lot of people will be relatively known to at this point in time, and some may say could be the right answer for the Chicago Bulls in terms of adding a lot of needs and definitely maybe potentially being one of the better available players with the 18th overall pick. Today I want to talk about Walker Kessler, ladies and gentlemen. Played for Auburn, I believe. Hopefully I said the name of that right. But at the end of the day, I really do see a lot of good aspects in terms of this player and what he could bring to a Chicago Bulls team. And I guess we're going to talk about the positives and negatives comparing to maybe a player like Mark Williams that we also see is probably highly scouted and would love the Chicago Bulls to take. I guess we're going to talk about the positives and the negatives of both of those guys put together. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls' potential of drafting this type of player in terms of the center position. At the end of the day, we all feel like a center position is an absolute necessity, no matter where it comes from the draft, from the trades, from free agency, whatever the case may be. We definitely do need a center, and we're going to take one in the NBA draft. This might be one of the better ones available for the Bulls to take. So he played for Auburn this season, ladies and gentlemen, played 34 games this year, and he averaged 11.4 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, 0.9 assists per game, shooting 60.8% from the field, 20% from the three-point line. So stats may not scream out to you, ladies and gentlemen, and to be honest, most of the centers in this draft, outside of maybe the ones that are in the top 10, won't scream out at you in terms of good offensive numbers and good defensive numbers. There's going to be, I guess, elements of both there. Definitely some potential there also, but they're not going to scream out to you like the first overall pick and the second overall pick and etc, etc. So that's definitely something you got to take into consideration. Obviously, comparing the stats between Mark Williams and Walker Kessler, there's fairly good stats for both of those players there as well. So very, very good in that retrospect as well. Let's now begin his positives and negatives. So the first positive that I have to say is his defense, in my opinion, is something to behold. When I watch this guy play defense, especially when I watch this guy block shots, he averages 4.6 blocks per game. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. By far the highest block percentage I've seen in terms of all of the draft prospects that I've talked about. This guy is averaging 4.6 blocks. That's incredible to see. And obviously, at the NBA level, I don't expect 4.6 blocks whatsoever, but at the end of the day, knowing that he has a certain act of timing those blocks. He's not the most athletic center out there, but when he's physically, I guess, reading the game, blocking shots, whether it comes from jump shots or in the paint, he's not falling to pump fakes, he's jumping at the right time, he's blocking at the right time, has fantastic defensive instincts, and knows when the block has to be made. He's phenomenal at that, and that's something that, in my opinion, you can't really... When you look at his stats, you look at him, that's something you can't take your eyes off. It's fantastic to see, in all honesty. Very, very much do like the fact that he is a very good shot blocker. Well, I do like he also has a little bit of a more offensive foundation. Again, if you're looking at guys compared to, again, Mark Williams, even looking at other guys like a Kofi Coburn type player, which I've talked about recently, at the end of the day, He has a more defined offensive game compared to some of those players. I feel like, again, 20% from the three-point line. I don't expect him to make a lot of three-pointers for the Chicago Bulls. I don't feel like he needs to be that type of player. We already have Nikola Vucevic that does shoot the three-point shot. I don't think we need another center that can do that. But in terms of spreading the floor, maybe taking an open one here or there, definitely something that could be available to him. I believe he had a couple of attempts from the three-point line, in all honesty. Looking here, he had 1.5 attempts from the three-point line, and again, he only made 20%, so not the best whatsoever, but there's potential there to really get a good foundation from that three-point line. And you know how centers are these days. They're going to have to learn how to shoot the three. It's as simple as that. Whether we want to be a good three-point shooting team in relation to the centers or not, if you're versing a small ball team, usually 1 through 5 will be able to shoot. So you're going to have to counteract that in one way or another. In my opinion, he also has a decent potential in terms of the post game as well. 7'1" center, obviously, could definitely get a little bit stronger in his frame, but definitely has potential to be a very good post player in the NBA also. I'd like to see how that can develop over time. Again, it could take a lot of time to develop, but potential is there. Offensively, there is so much potential in this player, and defensively, he looks NBA ready already. So that's really, really great to see. He's obviously is a dunk threat. He is an alley-oop threat. If you're comparing him to Mark Williams is more athletic. Mark Williams is more of a dunk threat and an alley-oop threat. But you do get a lot of those same aspects with Walker Kessler as well, despite him not being more athletic. He can dunk the ball. He's probably faster and a little bit more of a dunk threat than a player like Nikola Vucevic, who is on the Chicago Bulls team. So I don't see athleticism as the defining issue in terms of the center position. I don't necessarily need the biggest, most athletic. I don't need a center that's going to put people on posters every single possession. I don't need that from a center. But when he is available to go for the dunk or go for an alley-oop or stuff like that, he's always available for them, and he can make them as well, which does help with his 60.8% from the field. A lot of them are from putback dunks, pick and rolls, alley-oops. That's where the lot of his points usually come from, but he does have an ability to shoot the mid-range, enter the post, and shoot a three-point shot if left open. So those are all things at the NBA level. You take what you're given most of the time. That could potentially be something I could personally see as valuable. And looking at some of, I guess, his negatives in terms of, I guess, Walker Kessler, as I said before, he's not athletic, or he's not really a massive, I guess, guy that's going to be leaping out of the building. Stuff like that. You compare him to other centers that we've talked about. He's not more athletic than all of them. So that is definitely something to be aware of. Also, he's not going to be a guy that's going to be reliant on switching like probably what we would need. Again, I think that's probably the biggest difference between a guy like Mark Williams and a guy like Walker Kessler. Mark Williams, when he switches, I feel like it could potentially be an asset to the Chicago Bulls because he's not afraid to be in those positions where maybe he can keep up with a guard at some elements of the game, or he can keep up with forwards at some elements of the game. It doesn't look like he's left, I guess, on an island and he's being crossed up every single possession. With Walker Kessler, if you switch him onto forwards, you switch him onto guards, I feel like he will have a little bit more of a difficult time compared to a guy like Mark Williams. So that's something you got to keep into consideration, especially on the defensive end. You get rim protection with Mark Williams as well, but you also get an element of being able to switch if need be. I can definitely see that coming out of Walker Kessler in the future. Obviously, it's a little bit unpredictable at this point in time, but it looks like from what I've seen so far, he will have a little bit of trouble, I guess, switching onto smaller guards and smaller players. So if that's something that's seen as a highly, I guess, thought of important aspect for the Chicago Bulls, then I wouldn't necessarily put Walker Kessler at the top of the list in that regard. But I honestly don't see that many negatives to him. Maybe a three-point shot also, 20%, does need to improve. I feel like if you're comparing Mark Williams to a Walker Kessler type of player, again, both play the same positions, both bring a lot of defense, both can be paint presences and stuff like that. There's not, in my opinion, a massive difference between the two. But in all honesty, with the 18th overall pick, if we can select Mark Williams, I think that's still my first choice between the centers. But looking at this player, I think it's hard to ignore that there is so much potential offensively with him. And defensively, he's already ready. He is ready to compete at the NBA level defensively, especially against most of the other centers. If you're looking at rim protection, he brings that. If you're looking at size, he brings that. If you're looking at potential offensive capabilities, he brings that. If you're looking at a player that can, I guess, do a little bit of everything for you at the center position, I think he brings that. So I would still prioritize Mark Williams if he's going to be available, but there's more and more doubts of him being available at the 18th overall pick. So if the Chicago Bulls are truly looking for a center in the NBA draft, knowing that there are a couple of good ones out there, even ones that we could potentially get at the second round, I would implore the Chicago Bulls, if their main position, their main go-to, the best available, whatever the case may be, if they're looking for a center and Mark Williams is not on the board because there's a good chance he won't be, I implore the Chicago Bulls to look at Walker Kessler as a potential option. That's my personal opinion. That's what I believe on the situation. He could be a very good backup center for the Chicago Bulls, and he brings more than just defense in my eyes. So there's definitely something you can't ignore in terms of what potential could be in the future. This guy could potentially be one of the better two-way centers in the NBA if you give him the time and development on both sides of the ball. And I really can't ignore that. So in my opinion, he leaps up as one of the top 5 projections, in my opinion, what I would like to see the Chicago Bulls do. And I do think he'll be available with the 18th overall pick as well. So in my opinion, he could be one of the best available there. And I really think the Chicago Bulls should give him an opportunity and see where we go from there. Then we can focus on other positions in the trades and the free agency. We can focus on other needs. Maybe we get a third backup center. We don't necessarily keep the centers that we have already on the team. But whatever the case may be, I feel like Walker Kessler could be a fantastic addition to the Chicago Bulls team. So he's one of those players I absolutely would like on this team. I would still prioritize Mark Williams and maybe other centers that are projected to go within the top 10. If for whatever reasons one of them falls, I would still look at them over a Walker Kessler. But knowing that most of those centers that we want are going to be taken before we can get them, I implore the Chicago Bulls to look at this player. Have training sessions if they haven't already. Do whatever needs to be done. I feel like there's a good player here. And with the 18th overall pick, I would definitely like to give this guy a chance on the Chicago Bulls. It's been a long time since I've actually said I would like this player with the 18th overall pick. Again, at the end of the day, Arturis makes the final decisions. And I've always said I'm not going to be mad at any of the decisions made by the front office. Even if it's not a player that I necessarily like or I feel like maybe shouldn't be the 18th overall pick. I always feel like they know more than what I would know. So I will trust their decisions more than I trust my own. But I really do like this player. I also think that I think there could be so much development in this player as well. It's more just than being ready now, in my opinion. Being ready now is very important. I'm very happy that a lot of the targets that we're looking at can probably make an impact right away. This player, in my opinion, can make an impact right away on the defensive end. With years to come, can develop as a very good offensive player in this league as well. Just got to give him that right development. I think him under Nikola Vucevic being a mentor for a season, showing him the offensive game, I feel like could be a big thing for him as well, because Vucevic is one of the more talented offensive centers in the NBA. Whether we want to see it or we don't, whether we argue that he shoots too many threes or not, Walker Kessler could learn a lot from Nikola Vucevic within one season as an apprentice type player. So that's definitely something else that you can't ignore any of those things. So I do hope the Chicago Bulls give him a look. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.